there's a function of the church where career and ambition can seem like a worldly asset.
In your interactions at work, as a Christian, as an Adventist, do you feel as though the people that you interact with need to know your faith?
There are a lot of Adventists who have one opinion on this, another opinion on that, and to the outside public, it can look a little wishy-washy. There's so many blurred lines.
All right, so welcome to Sabbath Lunch, y'all. So if you don't know, now you know. This is a podcast that is born out of the lunch table. So quite often, usually at Living Faith SDA, we will literally just have lunch. And if you're looking for potluck, they do got lunch there, right? We can.
You should say the one in West Orange because there's another one.
Oh, where's the other one?
Somewhere like Michigan or something like that.
You said what?
You should say the one in West Orange because there's another one apparently.
Oh, Living Faith.
Yeah, Living Faith.
Okay. In Michigan.
Somewhere.
Shout out to that Living Faith Church in Michigan. All right. Living Faith SDA in Michigan. Y'all doing y'all thing. So we typically go to Living Faith SDA in West Orange, New Jersey. So at that church, we have potluck every week. And we literally just talk about anything. And random topics come up and we dive deep into them. And they're fun. And we had the idea, why don't we just turn a little camera on and make a podcast out of it? So you are getting a glimpse into that podcast, into that conversation. And with that being said, I'm not here to tell you that what we're saying is right. I'm not here. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not even going to tell you it's wrong. We might not even fact check that hard. But it's going to be a conversation. And we are going to do exactly what we do. So today's topic is faith and career balance. And we say faith, and we mean that from a Christian perspective. We mean that from a Seventh-day Adventist perspective. And we mean that also from your personal perspective. Mm-hmm. We all have different definitions of what career means and what that entails. But we also might have different definitions of how faith plays into that. So we're going to go right off the bat, man.
Should we start off by maybe saying what we each do? Maybe that can set a little bit of context, right?
I think that would be good context. Let's go. Offer it. We'll go around with it.
All right. Well, I'm a serial
name,
entrepreneur.
David?
Oh yeah, my name's David. I'm an entrepreneur.
He's married, y'all. Don't even think it. All right. He's married.
Yes, I am happily married. I'm the CEO of a company called Ride Goat, where we launch electric scooter fleets across the country. And then I'm also on an admin team of a summer camp. And I do a few other things on the side. I'm always busy.
Yes, indeed.
Got a lot of things, yeah.
My name is Christine. I'm an operations admin manager. And yeah, anything operations admin, come to me. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, she's really good at it too. My name is Ifeanyi, and I work as an IT technician.
My name's Chisa. Shout out to my boy Blue here. Blue's the greatest dog in the world. So if you see me messing with Blue, the game is the game. I'm not gonna stop that for these cameras. All right. I'm a CEO of a company called Pedal. We're the first people to bring influencer marketing to the recruiting world. So companies will send us different job descriptions, and we match them with different social media influencers and content creators that create content about that role. So it takes the job off a siloed job board like an Indeed or a Handshake, not that they're bad platforms, but then it puts it on the platforms that young people use the most. So think TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc. I feel you because just like David said, you can't avoid an opportunity to plug. Go ahead, Jay.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jayanne, and I'm an anesthesiologist, which means that I'm a physician who specializes in anesthesiology.
What's anesthesiology?
It is a specialty. Anesthesiology, really quickly, is basically a specialty in the field of medicine that is focused on providing anesthesia in various forms, whether it's general anesthesia, local anesthesia, neuraxial anesthesia, regional anesthesia, to patients so that they are able to undergo surgical procedures or invasive procedures that are deemed necessary for them. So the field of anesthesia is very wide. Like I said, we do different forms of anesthesia. I'm sorry if I'm talking too long. Let me know.
Hey, educate us. Educate
And
us.
so, for me personally, I'm a general anesthesiologist, so I provide pretty much almost all forms of anesthesia. So, in surgeries, in procedures such as endoscopies, colonoscopies, for pregnant women, I provide epidurals and spinals for C-sections, and and there are various subspecialties in the field of anesthesiology as well. But yeah, that's just a brief synopsis. If you want to know more, you can always go to Google.
My name is Stuart. I am a fire alarm technician, and on the side, I'm also a photographer, freelance.
I feel like you kind of putting the sexy voice on. What's up with that?
It's my post nap voice.
Okay. All right. Just,
Don't worry, it'll normalize eventually.
I feel like you're trying to impress
No,
somebody.
I'm not trying to impress.
All right.
What are you studying to do?
Oh well, yeah, I am a student. I am in school for my IT bachelor's and master's degree, so I can keep up with these lovely Black excellence examples here.
Awesome. All right, cool. Appreciate you, David. Thank you for that. So off rip, man, we're going to dive right into it. From the context of what role does your faith play in the job that you have or your career, if any?
So what role does my job play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the different things I work on, it's nothing that it does directly, but it affects the way that I carry myself in doing business, making sure that everything is kind of above board. I'm doing, and then I just kind of set things up so that I get my Sabbaths off and I set up my own schedule. So in everything that I do, I just kind of make sure that, I'm staying ethical and, putting my best foot forward to be a Christian, whatever I'm doing, a true Christian in whatever I'm doing.
I think the role that faith plays, I don't know how to say this, it's not bad, but faith has, funny enough, made everybody else's life a little bit harder in my work. So the way it works is in IT, on the weekends, you're supposed to, each technician takes a weekend to monitor from Saturday to Sunday, right? But since I follow the Lord, we praise him, and I believe that the Sabbath is the Lord's day, one day I said, hey, just to let you know, I can't do this. And then,
After you got hired.
oh no, I said that before, but
Okay.
I said that before.
Good.
They weren't listening, and then they came.
That's good for me.
Oh no. So that's actually the funny part that happened. So the first time I told my manager that, they laughed because they said, "You're not Jewish." And I said, "Yeah, but like."
Why is that always?
Why
the
can't you be
go-to?
Jewish? Why they think you're not Jewish?
Why is that always a go-to? though?
True.
I don't know. So then I said, no, I observe the Sabbath as a Christian. And then he continued to laugh and say, sure. Until I had to reach out to the director and let him know that, no, I can't actually work Saturdays. So the compromise I gave was, instead of, if people can take Saturdays, I will take every Sunday going forward. So every Sunday I work. Now, one of my coworkers, he was like, yeah, sure, it's fine. The other one was like, no, I don't want to do this. But the director was like, tough luck. And then just made that schedule. So it was an interesting thing because no matter what, now he has to figure out, he's going to learn what SDA is. And I think it makes me a little more self-conscious about what I represent, because I don't want Adventism to be associated with my life got harder. When that's not the proper ministry to it. It's you're giving your day to God because you love him. And two, it is a relief and a break from the regular world. So I guess that just got me just more self-conscious in my work area about like, what am I doing now? Because I realize I'm the first and only Adventist a lot of people here know.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience at one of my previous jobs. Working retail, they definitely have this very flexible approach on scheduling. So any job that I've worked, if I'm talking about my need for the Sabbath, not always, a lot of times they'll bring this idea, well, if I do it for you, I would have to do it for everybody. And my response literally once was, sure, why not? Give everybody Sabbath off. Let's close on Saturday, why not? And they chuckled because my personality is very, very light, but I kept the straightest face on I could keep. But anytime I've had that accommodation, as they call it, on my behalf, I've always volunteered. Like, I'll work Sundays. I'll take all the Sundays. Just give me Saturday off and don't have me work too late into the Fridays. And coming to the later part of the year, when sunsets get, like, the days get shorter, it's always a conversation. And I can never understand why it's a conversation until I think my last job, my last retail job, where I think sunset was closer to 4 o'clock. And the idea of me taking all the opening shifts, I presented, and they said it wasn't fair to anybody else because of their scheduling. I was like, I'm not, what are we gonna do? Like, I really don't know what to tell you. So I definitely understand why you have that conflict, because now that you're under a spotlight, you're being scrutinized for any and everything that you do. If you mess up, it's because he's Adventist.
Jane, I want to hear your perspective on this one.
On the flip side of what you guys have shared thus far, so being a physician is like my first real, I mean, I've had other jobs in the past, but it was like working at Cold Stone, babysitting, things like that, right? But being a physician is my first real job. And throughout training, specifically throughout residency, me having Saturdays off because I'm an Adventist was just not a thing. And if I'm being honest, that also went into me being an attending physician practicing medicine now. Currently, in the job that I have, me having Saturdays off because I'm an Adventist is just not a thing for the role that I'm in currently. And if I'm being honest, I was never like 100% okay with it. However, I kind of rationalized it because of the fact that I work in healthcare, and for Adventists, we kind of rationalized working on the Sabbath by saying, well, you're helping people, you're serving, you're saving lives, so it's okay, However, I think as of recently, I've kind of gotten to the point where even though, for many that may be true, I actually have come to the point where I'm just like, no, I value the Sabbath. Like, it's supposed to be my day of rest, and I actually want to take this day of rest, regardless of whether or not it's okay to save lives on the Sabbath. I mean, that's not a debate,
Yeah.
But I just want to rest, and I want that day.
Can we talk on that for a second? Because I do almost feel like there has been like, I think my whole life there's just an unspoken agreement that don't work on the Sabbath, but she's a nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I toss in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Adventists are known for their healthcare systems.
That's
We
true.
have Adventist Health, Advent Health in Florida, California, Tennessee. We have so many places. We've had sanitariums, and it's always, like you said, it's almost been like this thing where, as Adventists, we've always pushed healthcare, and it's, at our Adventist universities that have nursing and all that stuff, they work on the Sabbath. Now, I think you can confidently, like, the discussions, it really comes down to what are you convicted of. Some people, in scripture it talks about it, healing on the Sabbath, E.G. White talks about it, and really it comes down, that's one of those things where it's not necessarily black and white, but what are you convicted of? I can't tell you, hey, you're wrong because you're a doctor and you're working on the Sabbath. But if you feel like, okay, I don't want to work, sure. If you feel like I'm going to donate my salary that I make on that Sabbath, sure. But that's up to you. Yeah. Some people have done that where it's like, hey, I'm going to work, but I'm not going to get paid. Like, is that realistic? Is it not? I will donate a higher percentage. So it really just comes down to, here in New Jersey, we used to have an Adventist hospital.
Really?
And Hackettstown was a massive Adventist hospital.
Oh, I don't know.
You
I
had,
didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
where Garden State Tranquility, GSA was a high school, because that whole area of Hackettstown and Green Township was filled with Adventists. That church, Hackettstown Church, was packed. Tranquility Church was packed. The high school was packed. The middle school was packed because there was a whole bunch of Adventist doctors and nurses in that area. And then when the NAD decided to sell that hospital, still there's a huge community, even a nursing home near there, owned by an Adventist family. So I think it's just one of those things. It really comes down to personal conviction, but there's so much to point to of different people that have different opinions on it. And then even like what I always think about is, okay, we have our church events. When we go to a stadium that we're having camp meeting at, or there's people that are working.
Yeah.
You know, I volunteered for camp meeting to clean bathrooms and things, and I was always like, man, like this is real work, like serving the
Camp
food.
meeting bathrooms are no joke.
Praise God for you, man.
different
You know what's
level.
really no joke? Oshkosh bathrooms.
Oshkosh.
Those are
We don't have
the
enough time.
I heard
those are the den of the
have enough
devil.
time.
And that's real work.
That's
You
real
know, on
work.
the Sabbath. That's real work.
Aggressively.
So it's like there's exceptions, there's provisions to be made, but it really just comes down to that.
So you actually
individual.
bring up a really interesting double standard that I noticed sometimes, where if you have an accountant and he says I want to go to work on Saturday, everybody like, why? How dare you, sir? But if you have a treasurer that counts your money and does all your taxes
In the church.
thank the Lord, bless His name.
Now, some churches, when I was younger, I remember the church we attended, they would do all the treasury, they would collect it, they would wait until after Sabbath to touch any of it.
Really?
It wasn't until
Yes,
Maranatha,
yes, yes.
right? It wasn't until we became older that we would see, oh, they bring it to the back, then they open it up, and then they, count it off.
Yeah,
A lot of churches, still today, there's probably still churches that will wait until after Sabbath to
That's
actually
interesting.
really do all that stuff. So it just goes church to church. For
But
that.
they didn't count it during the
My
Sabbath.
home church.
Yeah, they just opened it out the.
My home church was like that.
Yeah.
I think even a church local to this area is like that as well, where they would collect everything. I want to say they would split the time, like open everything, but they wouldn't actually count anything until after sunset, and it would be a deaconess.
Yes.
The
job.
church I grew up in, they
Yes.
had me slinging counting every week. Every week. That's how I learned how to cut money fast. I said
Like drug money on the
401,
table.
402, 403, 404. Yeah.
I guess that gets to my question of like, what is work? Yeah, what's improper work then?
I had a former mentor. You know who I'm about to talk about. Actually, David, I think you do too. I had a former mentor that used to talk about like in entrepreneurship. 'Cause I remember one time I told him, I was like, yeah, I can't do something like I have Sabbath. And he's like, this still isn't your ministry, is it? He said, "You don't too hard. Don't too hard. I'm about to say it in a way, but the tone can make it sound like it's deep. I don't know how you need to even take this. Just let me say. I'm not trying to say it. He said, yeah, exactly. It sounded like I'm about to say something deep. I don't even know if it's deep. I'm just saying what was said. You're right. I'm not trying to even say it away. But he was like, oh, so this isn't your ministry yet. He said, if this was really your ministry, if this is your calling, if this is what you're using God's power to put into, it's like, this is what you would do, especially on the Sabbath.
That sounds like gaslighting.
I thought you were. Yeah, the devil's
That
lying,
sounds
for
like
sure.
gaslighting.
But at
That's
the
all you
same,
were gonna say.
I saw it from both ways. Because on one hand, I was like, I pray for this. I pray. This is the main thing I pray for. And I do see it very in line with my faith. And at a certain place, I do understand that, like, if I'm going to take this to a certain level, it doesn't need to feel like God's work. And on the other hand, this is my job, right? Entrepreneurship, startup, but this is my job. So that always conflicted with me. And honestly, as I have gotten older in the space, there is an alignment I see where this is a faith-based practice. Right, like this is how I minister. Like this is how I talk to so many people that I don't usually talk to, and this is their only interaction with an Adventist, with kindness, with a Christian, And I don't hide that, So I thought it was very interesting in the perspective, but it went back to that piece about when is it okay, when is it not okay, and also, I mean, for me, like because we work asynchronous, I'm always. Well, I used to be very concerned, like, when people were working on Sabbath. But then we have that type of workplace where it's like just results oriented. At the end of the week, just tell me when you get the work to me. Yeah. And am I supposed to tell this person, hey man, don't you work Friday night? And he's like, why? And like, but at the same time, I'm not at his house. It's all work from home. You know what I mean? I'm not, I don't know when he coded that or not. And so as we kind of get deeper when it comes to like work from home and technology and doing your own thing, side hustle, it gets real blurry. It gets real blurry.
I was just going to ask, in your interactions at work, as a Christian, as an Adventist, do you feel as though the people that you interact with need to know your faith in the process of you being a proper witness to them? Like, would you say, oh, by the way, I'm
sponsored by the Seventh-day Adventist Church?
I mean, is it witnessing if they don't know? Like, you never tell them.
The most hurtful thing someone be saying, they say, I didn't even know you were a Christian.
That hurts.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like they need to know, but I actually am excited to let them know that I'm Adventist. Like, I don't shy away from saying, I mean, based on the conversation like before, like any interview, I'm letting you know, like, hey, I'm Adventist. I observe the Sabbath. Some people will already know, like, they'll be like, oh, Adventist, and they'll be familiar. And I feel like that's a point of conversation a lot of times. And then when I'm in the job, obviously, not everybody, interviews. So, like, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I find it an opportunity to get into discussions because people offer different perspectives. People have different experiences. With Adventism, and I don't know, I just feel like, yeah, that is my way to witness because I feel like there are definitely extra eyes because, like people might be like, is Adventism a cult? Well, let's see how she moves. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, let's see how she moves. How does she work? I think it's important, like, with my job to keep that in my mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's that one school of thought where it's like you shouldn't have to tell somebody, right? But at the same time, they're not going to know if you don't tell them, But I do feel that trust has to accrue, and the impact of that statement of your faith, that hits harder when they already have a personal relationship with you,
Can I toss in on that? So I would say for my industry, we run 24/7, 7 days.
Your scooters still operate on Friday to Saturday?
All the time. In fact, actually,
get you some of them.
Actually, in
Florida
Israel,
Gulf Coast.
Wouldn't it be crazy if like the scooter shuts off?
Sabbath mode.
No, but what's funny? In Israel, scooters are so popular because public transit shuts down, because they don't make bus drivers work. Wow. So people like to ride around because it's a Sabbath to get around, right? Wow. And it doesn't, for those that don't want to do a certain amount of steps per day, it doesn't.
So you need to get to Loma Linda or something.
I do. But, for mine, we have customer service 24 hours a day. And sometimes even fleet operators need to reach out to me. I tell them, like, if they ask or something like that, usually I'll let them know. Usually it's not something I need to let people know right off the bat besides saying I'm unavailable. And if they press, it's like, this is why I'm unavailable. Right. When I've gone on business trips, though, I make it intentional that usually I'm not doing a business trip that's over the weekend. I try not to travel on the Sabbath. And then when there has been a time when I've adjusted a business trip while being on it and I attend church at wherever I am at, it's been cool to kind of have those conversations of like, oh, what did you do today while you're in my city? Oh, I actually went to the church, and then being able to open up from there. So that's been pretty cool.
I have two things. I want to ask you a question later, but the first one is, I think for me, my experience is I haven't told people I'm a Christian. Rather, it just, I haven't told them directly. It just brings up, right? So it just comes up naturally. It's like, oh, hey, Fonnie, where everybody's going, there's a holiday party and it fell on Friday night, Sabbath. So, everybody's going on to the holiday party. No, I can't. I'm going to Bible study. It's like, oh, you go to church like that. And then, and then things come out, you hear the good, you hear the trauma, a lot of trauma, and then people get to see your stance. The funny and the annoying part, though, is when people find out your Christianity at work, you change. Somehow, depending on the person's viewpoint, you either get higher or lower. And even for the people who put you on a higher pedestal, when you slip a little bit, it's like, a man of God? I'm like, all right, bro. All right, bro. Thank God. We thank you. Thank you. But that's been my experience. What I actually wanted to ask you, David, or just in general, is so this is where I get a little controversial. My stance is I don't see why the Sabbath exception goes to just medical people in the medical field because essential work is technically kind of complicated, right?
I agree.
Look,
The definition of essential work, or
Because for example, your scooters still run on
Yeah.
the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Your 24 hours still run on the Sabbath.
yeah. Customer service out of the Philippines, 12-hour difference.
Because
No,
it's
but
Because
no, but you know what else?
you said it's sundown.
Look.
to them.
but
It's
to my
fun down
point
for
is,
them. Yep.
I'm just thinking about like, all right, let's say a bank just stopped working on the Sabbath thing.
Well, it's not a Monday through Friday or corporate bank days,
No, but like
right?
I mean, like online, like you can't withdraw, you can't access, you
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything that requires somebody to code, make work, or do anything. We just work.
In our modern day, yeah.
In our modern day, as a society, that sounds.
I mean, it's not all work that stops. Pastors get paid for their work on Sabbath. That's their job, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there are other things that operate. You can't just shut everything down, especially
Yeah.
in today's world.
Yeah.
So funny. I don't know if you're aware. There is a photography like mega store in New York, B&H Photos. That is if I'm
Jewish
correct,
owned.
It's Jewish owned.
Yep.
On their website, it will say all transactions like
They don't
any
even
shopping
allow
will,
orders.
will stop at this time between this time, and it's pretty much the Sabbath hour.
Yeah.
You can still browse the store. The coding doesn't need a break. That's zeros and ones. They don't reflect. But if your transactions, your purchases will not go through, will not be processed. You can't even say submit order until after sunset.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, woe to you if you hit a holiday.
Yeah.
If you hit one of their like
Jewish
really
holidays.
Jewish like really.
They're not open on Yom Kippur?
So it's not to say that not to say the store itself is closed. I believe
Yeah.
it's closed or like limited hours.
Yeah.
They observe a
But
lot
the
of.
online store.
Especially y'all support it
Shuts
so
down.
hard.
It's
Why
a
y'all support in particular?
So
a week.
so
No,
on
but
the
they'll
website-
observe it because all of those orders will be backlogged.
Yeah.
They'll put them all on one day.
The entire
So like I said, I
Yes.
can't
Praise
speak.
God for
I
that.
can't speak
And-
specifically on Yom Kippur or any
No, they
any
won't.
holiday that's like week long. But on their website, there'll be a banner at the top that will say observance of so and so holiday between the hours of this time on this day to this time on that day. Don't expect anything, so plan accordingly. And they'll even say in advance. They'll say like, hey, coming up, this will be happening. Prepare. So there are some businesses that do operate on a Sabbath, do observe the Sabbath, and they're doing well.
Those are non-essential businesses.
Speak-
I'm talking about
As a
like,
photographer, when I need a
essentials,
memory
like,
card,
Essential is essential though. Like we
like
know
a
what
gas
you mean.
station can't observe Sabbath.
why not?
Some do.
That's not-
Some do.
Oh,
Fill up your tank before the Sabbath.
If my
A lot
tank
of
gets
Jewish, right, a
eased,
lot of Jewish communities they walk to church. They don't
Yes.
just
Yes.
This
So-
very community.
I get what you're saying, but like, I mean, look, nothing is a monolith. There's always a spectrum. There's gonna
Okay.
be people on the more like conservative, strict side, more people on the liberal, relaxed side. So there's always going to be a spectrum of opinions and things like that. But like, look, there's people Adventists that are like, yo, I'm gonna fill up my tank before Sabbath. If church is too far away, I look at too much driving as me not observing Sabbath. So there's people that are gonna always be on both sides of it,
Yeah.
Can I ask you, because you kind of touched on this right off rip when we were talking. What do you feel like determines that spectrum?
Personal conviction.
But what is that?
The Holy Spirit will convict you of what you need to know and what you need to do.
I also think it might have to do with. I also think it has something to do with like your family upbringing.
Yeah. But even some people, like, there's some parts where it's okay. So like
Yeah.
parts of Tennessee where Adventism is really strong because their university's there, everyone's vegan and things like that. Sure. Then they move away and then it's like, oh, do I really need to be? It's really just going to be conviction or culture or whatever you're surrounded by.
Environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with what was being said, especially with the comment that you made about the Jewish photography online store, do you guys think that the Jewish religion as a people, that they've gotten this right? Do you feel as though when we look at ourselves as Adventists, that maybe we can take a page from their book when it comes to the level of strictness that they hold as Jews when it comes to keeping the Sabbath?
Yes.
And then, in addition to that, we know that many Jewish families are entrepreneurs, and you have to ask yourself the reason as to why they create their own hospitals, they own their own businesses, and things like that. What do you guys think about that? And do you feel as though that is something that we as Adventists should adopt more?
That is such an interesting point. I mean, obviously, it's like that is when you operate in any type of counterculture format, you have to genuinely create your own in order to thrive. So, in a way, they have been able to, and this is my opinion, but in a way, it's like they have been encouraged to build their own and work together to build their own because they know it's going to be way too hard to just do this in a regular anywhere place. But I'll say at the same time, as Adventists, I don't know if we've had that same entrepreneurial push.
I think I know what. I have an idea as to why. The Jewish community is very structured. So no matter what the individual may believe, the Jewish belief is X, Y, and Z. How you decide to live your life based off that structure is up to you. There are a lot of Adventists who have one opinion on this, another opinion on that, and to the outside public, it can look a little wishy-washy. There's so many blurred lines. So, for example, dietary, shellfish, lobster, pork, stuff like that. It said that a lot of Adventists will say we don't eat that. And you'll find some Adventists who will enjoy Red Lobster buffet or something else that doesn't agree with that mindset. So where are the lines drawn? Are there any solid lines and boundaries that we can uphold to say that we built our own? What the individual does not reflect on the standard.
So I actually work at a Jewish institution right now. So, sorry, I know you posed the question, but do you mind repose where we at? Because I could. Oh yes, I actually feel like I admire the community because I think they are getting it right. They're sticking by the book. They're sticking on truth, fact. It's not about feelings. One thing that I observe, I feel like because they're community based, like the people that they spend time with, like yes, they have to interact with the rest of the world, but the people that they spend time with, who they network with, they'll keep it. Like say a job opportunity comes, like they'll keep it like, oh, okay, I know my family member or I know this person's son. You know what I'm saying? And I think because they move like that, like ants, that's where they're able to build the structure and be able to like stay on point. Because like when everybody is like in sync, you don't really have a reason to like
Question.
Be like, hey,
can't.
Sabbath, yeah, I'm gonna eat on Sabbath or I'm gonna get gas. It's not really, it doesn't become like, it's not too many personal things. Like everything just works systematically because your community, who you work with, the stores down the street, the school, whatever, they're all on the same accord. And it's like, yeah. So I think they're getting it right as far as staying up to par. And then actually, I just wanted to say, because I couldn't say this, what I absolutely love is they like most of their businesses, like there's stores, like you were saying, like a photography store, there's like saving stores, the institutions, schools, hospitals. One thing they'll do, like when it comes to holidays, they'll start the day before, like just much like they observe the Sabbath, which is something I didn't know. They'll start the day before. So yeah, Sabbath might end 6 p.m. or something like that. The sun might set or it might start, but they'll start like they allow for the preparation of, and that's something that I've appreciated as an Adventist because it's very intentional and they are blessing me by doing that. It's not just them, you know what I'm saying? And that they're ministering to me essentially. And so, yeah, just I mean, shout out to my brothers and sisters.
And then they're just wildly successful and wealthy, even still.
Yeah.
Like,
Correct.
sorry, I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think they are getting it right in terms of what they believe. They're definitely getting it right. But then also there's the balance of, how we believe as Christians. There was times that Jesus would call them a den of, vipers, because they would hold the letter of the law above the spirit of the law, right? Whereas we understand with grace and everything like that, there's things that, can be excused. Hey, you need, your car is on E. Yeah, you can be the Christian that says, hey, I'm just going to pray that I make it, and it's there. Or you can be the one that says, okay, I'm not going to get stuck on this side of the road where I don't have service. Let me go get gas, right? And then just to go back to the Jewish people, even their hospitals, their elevators in New York will stop on every single floor so that they don't have to push the button. I knew a story of an Adventist guy who he got into an elevator, and then he saw a Jewish person get into the elevator. And it was the Sabbath. This elevator didn't have that feature, and because he knew this guy was a Jew, it was like a Hasidic Jew with the hat and everything, and he was just like, the Jewish guy asked him to push the button. He said, "I'm not going to push it," because he knew he just kind of matched his energy. They'll ask someone who's non-Jewish to do certain things. So I don't know. I think they are getting it right,
I did not
but
know that.
Yeah.
but yeah, sometimes they won't even push the
So
elevator button.
are you saying the elevators are programmed
To stop
Okay.
on the
During
Sabbath,
Sabbath?
during the Sabbath hours, they will stop on every single floor so that they don't need to push the button.
The hospital that I work at has a Sabbath elevator specifically for that.
Oh, I love
Interesting.
that.
So, but does it also have like a normal elevator in
Yeah.
case of an emergency?
Yes.
I'm like OR, like, gotta keep this man alive, But
Not today, you won't.
I'm not gonna get in the way of the plan that God has for this person's life. That's what you're saying. But
It's like the Jehovah's Witness where they don't like blood transfusions and stuff.
okay, yeah, I learned that this past February when I went to my aunt's funeral in England. Like I just read everything. I was like, wow, I can see why people get us confused sometimes with Jehovah's Witness, because a very strict and staunch Adventist could look like a Jehovah's Witness.
Very interesting. Even moving past the Sabbath part, there's a function of the church where career and ambition can seem like a worldly asset. There's a perspective that you're so concerned about what's going on in the world as if you're going to leave with it.
Or you're like teetering on the line where you might fall into idolatry
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
when it comes to your ambitions.
I feel like entrepreneurs fall into that so much.
Yeah. Talk about it. What do you think?
For me, I remember early on, it was like, hey, I want to be a billionaire. And then I was like,
that used to be your Instagram name.
it used to be my Instagram name, David the Future Billionaire. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I had this thing where I was like chasing wealth, and I remember thinking, to be a billionaire in today's world, you have to have like a real big legacy. Nobody just accidentally becomes a billionaire. So now I was just like, okay, you know what? I want to be David the Future Millionaire. So I changed my name to that. And then I just remember thinking to myself, I mean, money doesn't buy happiness, or I can't take it to heaven. So that's actually why I had changed my Instagram name to what it is now,
Which is
the Happy David.
I figured.
So it was just like, I want to be happy. And then I was thinking about Matthew 6:26, where it says, "Look at the birds of the air; they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they?" So ultimately, as Christians, even as entrepreneurs that may fall into this thing, we sometimes just shouldn't just chase it. Like, God will ultimately take care of us in whatever we're doing. And if that blessing is, if we honor Him, He'll honor us with that blessing.
See, I'll say as well. That perspective. Also, it's very cool. I never knew why you changed it. I watched every evolution of your Instagram name.
You're like, I'm okay with a million.
Yeah. Well, I would search the billion. Did David delete his Instagram? Oh, okay. Oh, he's a millionaire. Okay, he happy now. All right.
Did he make it to the million?
You're right. But that perspective as well does evolve into a form of entrepreneurship, turning into purpose work.
Yes.
And that purpose work then there's a way, purpose is a hard word. When purpose is deep, you can feel like the work you're doing is the same thing as the pastor preaching on Sabbath. And then it steps into that cycle of conviction. Like for you, when you talk about the scooters, in a way, you know, like you said in Israel, the buses aren't running. I'm the only way people can still get around.
Yeah.
There's like a purpose work in that.
I've considered that, like, if I were to put my scooters on any of like our Adventist institutions, of like making the scooters free for Sabbath. Now, nobody, you know, I still need to talk to the right people or even approach them about it. But like, yeah, there's still that possibility to create that into a purpose.
I think we live in an age right now where prosperity gospel has become very prevalent. So prosperity gospel is the idea of almost making Jesus a genie in a sense. If you just believe hard enough, if you just pray hard enough, wealth, millions, fames will come to you. And because a lot of really popular pastors are push prosperity gospel, I think we as a church have kind of gone on the opposite end, a little bit to a detriment.
That's interesting.
That's worldly. That's idolatry. Don't care yourself about the world. When I don't think it's biblical to be on either extreme. I think in the same way God says He has every need, He does say also be as wise as a serpent, right? He still blessed Solomon. He still blessed David. You see instances in the Bible where God blesses people with financial benefits and responsibilities. I think ambition is healthy, and I think passion is healthy, and I think determination is healthy. I just think it can't be in the place of God. So for a lot of people, my business is who I am. My path is who I am. That is what makes me. If this fails, I will be broken in a way that can never come back from it.
I had that for a bit.
I see.
Thank you for that. Like you're saying that should be where God is for you. Your identity can't be in this because, to be frank, you're not going to make it. The entrepreneurial life is not for the faint of heart. And if you put your all into it, not like action-wise, but if you put your entire identity into it, the days when you're in the valley, you might just quit, or worse.
I don't remember the actual book, chapter, and verse, but there's a scripture that says, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto man. And I thought about that as you were speaking, you know, and I think about people in the Bible who I wish I could have like an up close like view of what their day-to-day was like, what their life was like. People like Joseph or people like Daniel, who was spoken of that he had an excellent spirit within him. You know, even like government leaders said that he had an excellent spirit within him, you know, and I'm pretty sure there was a certain level of ambition that went along with that, you know, but he still held to his godly standards, you know. I wish I had the opportunity to just see what that looks like in real time. I mean, of course we read in the Bible and we know, but, you know, just like to be able to fill in the blanks as to what that looks like on a day-to-day basis would honestly be beautiful.
You know, it's interesting is even for us, we are a smaller church with ambition to grow. Right? It's like,
Wait, you mean the Adventist Church or Living Faith?
sorry, I'm talking about Living Faith.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I'm sure the Adventist church too, to be honest with you. Right? Like, relatively, we're a smaller church with ambitions to grow. And so there's certain ambitions and contexts, and honestly, a lot of times in order to fulfill those ambitions, it's usually a capital-intensive request.
Yeah.
Right? It's typically a capital-intensive request. So I wonder in what manner we speak on these worldly ambitions, if that actually correlates with like the practical ambitions we have in the church. In a sense, thank you for cocking your head like that and you know, letting me know I spoke gibberish. Pretty much, like what I'm thinking is like in the church we're always like, yo, 10%, 10%, 10%. Well, most people are gonna be able to increase that 10% within their worldly ambitions, right? That will then go and support the church to be able to grow and do X, Y, and Z. But it's like in the church we don't really advocate or discuss or talk on like worldly ambitions very much to like encourage it or incentive. You know, like it's not a topic, but it's something that we have come to in a way rely on nonetheless.
I would say, you know, that 10% tithe can come in monetary or time.
Say that.
And so, I mean, if you're someone who's poor, how are you going to give 10% of what? So you should give some of your time if you have that. But I was also going to say, the growth of a church doesn't necessarily have to require money, right? The early church grew through small groups. It doesn't cost anything to invite people to your, well, I mean, maybe it costs maybe a little bit more, but you know, that's less money than like printing out a whole bunch of flyers and then passing them out.
To bring someone to your home and talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, small group, or look, even before you get into small groups, it's free to become friends with someone. Because through your life with them and interacting with them, you are a Christian and your life should be reflective of, you know, of Christ, right? And so if you're ministering properly through your own life, that costs nothing. So if, you know, we have, I forget, our church is like 20 million members worldwide. I mean, it would double if everyone had one good friend that they could, you know, communicate
Only
with,
I
right?
had a good friend.
And then sometimes people think of it as like, this is my church friend and this is my non-church friend. No, we need friends.
I love
Big
that.
facts.
Love that.
I do think though that because we hinge the growth on the gospel on things outside of capital, we're talking towards that. We miss opportunities for us to develop people's professional paths within our church. Now, I'm not talking specifically, I just mean like the general church altogether, right? Because most likely, if you're a kid, right, there's at least somebody in your church who does what you're thinking about doing, or know someone that's doing what you think about doing. And I think a lot of financial growth doesn't come from just handing people checks, but it comes from handing people wisdom. It's like, hey, what do you want to do? All right, this is how I did it, and I went wrong this way. So let me give you opportunity to say, let me let you shadow me one day, and then you can see this is the path you want to go to. It's a great point.
So there's Adventist professionals, right? Where they go around and
Is that a group you're saying?
that is a group.
AYP, Adventist Young Professionals.
That one.
Oh, yes.
Where they
I've been getting emails about that, and I don't know
I see those
how
ads on
they.
Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got my email address, and I was like, who?
They started monitoring
professionals and they network.
Yes, it's actually really good.
They said, no, we need her.
But this is also something that I've been thinking about recently. Like, for example, New Jersey, we have a couple of our Adventist, like, middle schools, high schools. And I've only been to one Adventist community fair. Everybody who's, like, in high school seniors, they only think, oh, like, as an Adventist, I can be a nurse or, you know, like most of these kids don't even, they think of doctor, nurse, lawyer.
We push very heavily into healthcare.
Yes, engineering, but there's so many more careers
We
that.
do not touch the creators.
And so I was thinking on what he was saying, hosting career fairs. Hey, have everybody make a slideshow on what they do for work.
That's powerful.
You know, you can make a lot of money being a cameraman, right?
Yeah.
A videographer, things like that, and
Facts.
talk about it, right?
But I think that the ministry really starts within the church too. Like we're talking about just like worldly versus like ministries. Like a lot of these maybe I'm going off the topic a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight that. I just feel like I mean, one, it's like I don't think the church invests a lot into people's gifts. That's one, or to develop their gifts and place people in the right ministries. Ministries being like hospitality ministry, for those who don't know. I don't know. Media, youth, leadership, community service, prison ministries, and a lot of church ministries are lacking, and I think that's really where it starts before it's serving within your community before you can actually go out and serve, the better you serve in-house, I think makes you a better leader outside the house. And I think I witnessed that too. I'm just thinking back, one thing I'm passionate about is youth and young adults, especially Pathfinders. And back in the day, I was just thinking about David, but I was a director, and I think one thing I enjoyed was serving in the church, and then David helps me, and then seeing how David's my brother, by the way. David stepped but seeing how he stepped into position in church, and also in his work ethic, and the way that he interacts with people, he mentioned the summer camp and stuff like that. Just being very observant that I think that's where the investment really should be in-house before it's really out-house. Some people don't even know yeah, people don't even know what's happening, how the church functions. So
That's a great point. And at the same time, I gotta say, like, a lot of times we don't even know. Like, I never talk about work in church, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't even know what each other do to properly place people in
that part.
their best role or where they can be best applicable.
I'll just take this one. Okay, so I have not controversial. I think it's pretty popular. I think most Christian media sucks. Now,
Not us.
Except Sabbath Lunch Podcast.
and Chosen, it got really good.
Chosen.
Go ahead.
But I think it sucks because the approach we have to ambition goals and just career bled into that. We saw a lot of fields like STEM, which I'm not saying it's anything wrong. STEM is like, go into that. You're foolish if you're not doing that. You're not being a good steward if you don't get this job. But then the church will complain, the world is getting worldly. I can't even let my kid watch this show. I can't even take my kid to this movie.
Wow.
And then you're thinking, bro, you told the director, go to med school.
Yeah.
You told the person who complained.
Where are the Christian directors?
But there's Angel Studios, right? There's Pure Flix, which is all Christian, like, or for the most part, good media. There's Sight and Sound in Pennsylvania. I don't know where else there is something like that. There's the Noah. Like, I get what you're saying. There's not that much great media, right? Like Chosen and like they just started getting good and they're making animations and stuff. But like, you know, we got to be the change that we want to see. So
but that's to my point. My point is like I do think that you're right. There's people starting up now, and I'm sure there were people in the past. But I think the aggression that we have towards those fields is not the aggression that we have towards medical fields, because one got deified more than the other, even though both have a severe impact. If not anything, if not media has been a way to minister.
I do have, and I not a contrasting idea, but the issue that I see when it comes to using your gifts in house, that sometimes, and I hope it's unintentional, these gifts can sometimes be taken advantage of. Where so think about
There's only one of you.
so think about like music ministries, for example, when they, you know, if you need musicians, you can use you can use your in-house musicians and talents if they're available, but if they're not, then you go out-house. And there's not a vast number of SDA like musicians that I can think of off the top of my head, like in this area. So then you branch out to your other Christian denominational brethren for their talents, and they're phenomenal. But then the question of who you pay them, and then when you use them for a little while, and maybe the church body gets used to this quality of music, and now it comes down to like, should we be paying musicians? Why can't we use our in-house talent? In-house talent doesn't have that same.
They're not at the same level.
That same level at that point in time. Maybe because of their age, maybe because they just don't have that.
Maybe if we paid them from
And look, and then it's a question of like sometimes the in-house talent, they also get paid for work somewhere else. It's like, I could be here for free, or I could live and eat somewhere else.
It also goes down to, if I'm getting paid, well then now is this work?
yeah.
Is it work or
Yeah.
There's a lot of excellent black, you know, or any race Adventist people that are skilled, right? We have, you know, Adventist that was on the first season of Lego Masters. We have an Adventist that just shot a presidential interview. Well, actually, a couple Adventists that shot that interview, right?
There's one in the room right now.
There's one in the room right now. And so,
Sabbath Lunch Podcast.
right? So,
Last week we were shooting Kamala. Shoot nuts.
yeah, right? So, you know, they'll either be used by the church.
Recording Kamala.
Yeah, shoot, it sounds great.
Oh, yeah, recording. Recording, yes. So they'll either be used by our church or by wherever else. But if they're not used by our church, they can still be shining for it, right? In whatever way, shape, or form, and representing it. So there's, I like, you know, it's not a monolith. There's so much, you know, so much of a spectrum there. But yeah.
Awesome. All right, unfortunately, y'all, that's all the time we have for today.
This was such a good conversation. I actually wish it could go
Part
longer.
2.
Me too, and I have a feeling when the cameras turn off, it probably will.
Keep it rolling.
But as per usual, look, we open the conversation. We want y'all to take that conversation and have it at your own home, at your own Sabbath lunch. And look, If you need us, reach out. You know where we at, Jersey. But also feel free to message us. Tell us what you think. Have your opinion in the comments. Do your thing.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. Thank y'all for coming too. And we'll catch y'all next episode. Peace. Thanks.